This is where we meet Ricky.
My name's not really Ricky.
Oh, okay. Anyway, Ricky, played by Jennifer Lopez, is the film's leading lady. And she is a
stone cold
gay
Dicosaurus Rex clam licker.
Means I'm a lesbian.
This is pretty much the only concrete thing we ever find out about Ricky in the course of the film, as the writers choose to have her speak very vaguely and not give any information about herself or her background.
I do jobs of various types. I'm from another place.
Oh, where would that be, Ricky?
Somewhere else, Larry.
The reason this character fails is the writers try to add so many sides to her that each one comes off superficial at best, or at worst, completely fails. At different points in the film, we are expected to believe that Ricky is a badass, motherly, a feminist, a lesbian, not a lesbian, a cock tease, a tough gangster, a squeamish gangster, philosophical, likes to psychoanalyze people about their sexuality, has relationship problems, and is so fine, she blows my mind. But she probably wouldn't blow my... None of these things are ever really developed, except superficially, and Lopez just isn't believable as any of them. You'll also notice that quite a few of these contradict each other, and it's been proven that giving a character constantly changing and contradictory motivations will drive them straight into the ground.
Ricky says she is a new neighbor who just has to use the phone, and sits on the couch making eyes at Larry. Eventually she reveals that she is another gangster who was sent by Lewis to keep an eye on the operation of holding Brian.
Well, then I guess he also probably hasn't called to tell you that he would feel much more comfortable if there were two independent, unacquainted, perhaps even mutually hostile contractors working on this so they could keep an eye on one another?
Why didn't she just tell Larry that when she showed up at the door? Why did she pretend to be a neighbor only to abandon the pretense 5 minutes after getting there? That doesn't really make sense. Larry then phones Lewis, where he confirms that he did indeed hire Ricky, which also doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't Lewis have told Larry about Ricky? For all Lewis knew, Larry might have shot Ricky the second she mentioned Brian. I think that probably would have been useful information for Larry to have. Now, Larry, I feel especially obligated to divulge to you that I have sought the desperately required assistance of an individual who finds themselves in the same general occupation as yourself. This individual is set to arrive at your place of residence in the vicinity of 3 o'clock to give aid and assistance in your assigned endeavor of holding on to the mentally challenged captive.
Larry then starts his old standby, being an asshole. When reputations come into the conversation, Larry lets Ricky know that he... Oh god, we just have to play this again.
I am the fucking sultan of slick, Sadie. I am the rule of fucking cool. You wanna be a gangster? You wanna be a thug? You sit at my fucking feet. Gather the pearls that emanate forth from me. Cause I'm the fucking original straight, first, foremost, pimp, mac, fucking hustler, original gangster's gangster.
Larry smacks Brian around, and then Ricky threatens to kill Larry.
You leave him alone or I'll kill you.
This is just out of nowhere, and doesn't mesh with what we've seen of Ricky, and Lopez is anything but intimidating here. So that threat is completely unbelievable. With our three main characters now established, we jump to them eating dinner. There are a lot of scenes like this in the film. Nothing is really happening in the plot, and so these scenes are intended to develop the relationship between the characters. But they really don't. They consist of the characters bickering and sniping at each other, thus getting on each other's and the audience's nerves. After dinner, Larry makes a bed for Brian on the couch. Brian demands a story.
Read to me, Larry.
And, owning no books, Larry reads him the label on a bottle of Tabasco sauce. Why is there a bottle of Tabasco sauce in his living room? I don't know. I guess this is worth an appreciative smile. The movie is supposedly a comedy after all, so I guess I need to take laughs when I can get them. We then get to sit through an uncomfortable and enormously cliched set of scenes, starting with Larry offering to share his bed with Ricky.
This is, I hate to see you sleep on the floor like that. I mean, come on. So if you want to, you can go ahead and just take half of my bed.
Ricky says yes, and then we move into a scene with Larry pumping himself up in the mirror. I think this scene was supposed to be funny, but Larry's narcissism, wow. I didn't know that was possible. Makes us like Larry even less than before. Look at this. How can we like this?
Get the bull by the horn. I'll give you the horn. Want to see the horn? Want to see the horn?
I think they were going for Larry's narcissism being entertaining, sort of like Gaston. This doesn't work, because Gaston was clearly the villain. We love to hate him, and he stole every scene he was in. Larry is not the villain, though. We are expected to root for Larry, and not one thing Larry does pushes us in that direction.
Larry then joins Ricky in bed, and we are forced to sit through Larry clumsily trying to seduce Ricky. Once again, this scene was probably intended to be humorous, but it's just creepy. Larry's such a scumbag that all potential humor here is eradicated. In this scene is the big reveal that Ricky is a lesbian, which Larry looks baffled by, almost as if he doesn't know what the word means. Ricky drops a line that's really just a big cock tease.
I mean, after a first date like this, I find it really hard not to just get under the covers and do you big time right now.
And then goes to sleep. The next morning, Larry catches Brian calling the weather service and listening to some Australian girl talk about the weather. Why? I don't know. Anyway, then Larry finds Ricky in the living room and apologizes for the awkwardness of the previous night. Oh wait, no he doesn't, he's just an asshole about it.
I don't want you to get upset or nothing. That's it. That don't be coming back though. I mean, it's a one-time offer. One shot with me. I'm out.
There is then a knock at the door, and we are introduced to Christopher Walken, who plays officially the most pointless character ever put in a film. He is not named. He doesn't contribute anything to the story. He never comes back or is even mentioned again. He's a detective or policeman of some kind, and he is apparently drunk, insane, eccentric, or some combination of the three. None of his lines make any sense.
Larry, I am a chicken.
And he is in this movie to fill up time, to try and add some sense of humor into the movie, and to give us another famous face to look at. And the delivery is just insane.
Interested? Yeah.
He also takes a lot of pauses while he's interrogating Larry that are intended to be intimidating. But really just come off as awkward. Anyway, Walken's character shows up and is asking questions about Brian, who is missing. It is implied that Walken and Larry have a previous relationship, but this is never delved into, and the character literally is never mentioned again. It also establishes that the police are aware that Brian is missing, which could have been an interesting direction to take the movie in. The police are hunting the trio, and they are forced to work together in order to evade them. But the police are never an issue in the rest of the film, making it seem like Walken's character is just a remnant from an earlier draft of the script that focused more on the crime than the romantic comedy aspects. Walken comes in and reveals that Brian is the brother of a federal prosecutor, and that someone may have kidnapped him in order to put pressure on him. My question is, how were the police already aware of Brian's disappearance and had connected it to Lewis's boss Starkman in less than a day? The filmmakers want us to believe that Larry can just walk out of a mental facility with Brian without presenting any identification, and then the police catch on to the entire plot after less than 24 hours. I guess this is technically possible, but it's kind of hard to believe. So after taking up 5.5 minutes of screen time, in which all he does is establish a minor plot point and chew the scenery, he blathers on about pie or something.
Man, you know what I'd love to do? Right now? Go down to Marie Callender's. Get me a big bowl. Pie, some ice cream on it. Good. Put some on your head. Your tongue would slap your brains out trying to get to it.
And then leaves.